All right. I know it's live. Now Instagram has got to do its thing. Come on. Wake up. And it looks like it worked.
Nicely done.
Welcome to Unmuzzled Chat. Folks, you're in for a really great episode. Judith here. She is a singer, songwriter. She's been to hell and back. The title is no joke, okay? And I believe with the trial she's overcome, it's not just going to breathe light into your life, but it's going to breathe light into mine. And I'm just so excited for her to show up today, have the courage and vulnerability to dive into her personal story with us. You know what? I'm going to invite you in first, Judith. Welcome to Unmuzzled Chat. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm on top of the world looking down on creation. Thank you for asking.
Well, it is our pleasure to have you. I'm super psyched. You know what I'm going to do? We're going to go ahead and do a screen share because there's one clip here we're going to play for folks that aren't aware as to the actual threats. Oh, what happened to it? Well, why? I guess the whole window refreshed.
Oh, bummer.
But boom, here we go.
You don't really see it happening. Perfect. Cool.
So we found it. We got it here. All right, folks. For those of you that aren't familiar with Lyme, just check this out.
The cases of Lyme disease are going up. The CDC estimates there are 500,000 cases a year. That's on average 1,300 people a day.
Where do we think this came from?
Lyme disease wasn't a problem till the peak of the biological weapons program in the US, the mid-70s. These three freaky diseases showed up: Lyme arthritis, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and then there was a parasite called Babesia.
So you have a cluster of these previously rare diseases right across from the U.S. government's biological weapons testing facility. Is that what you're saying?
This is the perfect stealth weapon. It's poor man's nuke.
It's hard to digest all of this. It's just so evil.
We can't control nature. And if we're going to play God and make these new germs inside ticks, there could be blowback, unintended consequences. And that's what I believe could happen.
Well, I venture to say they aren't unintended consequences. They, in fact, are intended consequences. It has brought great wealth to select certain individuals at the apparel of so many. I mean, Judith, the episode you were on was so powerful with Anne. So this isn't your first podcast experience. And it blew my mind. Like, she did really well describing this. She said, so we'll plug Anne, we'll plug her podcast. I'm actually excited to reach out to her at some point, but that's beside the point. But she mentions at one point in your
Silver liming, by the way. Sorry, I wanted to make that association. Go ahead, please.
Awesome. She stated, who needs bombs, guns, or traditional warfare when you create something that can impact the masses to be dumb, tired, and stupid, to not even remember what they even are fighting for in this life. It is horrific. And we know, because we've been on that side of the chronic, debilitating life. It's you want to die, and somehow you're just existing. And luckily for our story,
as a prisoner in your own body, right? With torture that you can't describe.
Yes.
Right? That it's just indescribable. But those consequences, to your point, the argument made that it was intentional, it seems pretty well researched, and they developed enough evidence to indicate that the entire concept of Lyme was indeed intentional with a purpose to harm humans. that's a kind of, I'm hoping will start getting some more recognition of that
Yes.
reality. But
Yes.
what I want to double down on is the whole unintended consequence, because regardless of if there was an intention or not, there is a moral responsibility in my mind to recognize consequence. And
Ooh, I like
so even if it were an accident, right? Even if there
even,
wasn't something
even.
that was
Yes.
developed with the intention to
Mm.
create people to either be so miserable they kill themselves, or they're just a long-term death by a thousand paper cuts kind of illness. And what I think is even worse than that, if I were to double down on that misfortune, is ignoring the ones that are suffering the consequences of a organized behavior.
Mm.
And that is what I'm like, well, of course, I know just personally, if I kind of dumb it down to my layman's experiences, if somebody does something to me that is hurtful, whether they meant it or not, if I say, ouch, that hurt,
It's not to be
the
swept under the rug.
expectation is not for them to first go into, it's not my fault. If that's
Mm.
the first response that you're getting in
Red flag.
providing feedback, right? And so that's what's happening in kind of the real world of insurance and medical systems, and all of these agencies that do not consider the reality of Lyme and the consequences that those of us that are infected with it are holding for them. And then
Right.
what makes it worse is also being denied of our experience. So that was a good perspective. I wanted to jump on there too. Yeah.
You voiced that so well. I hope folks really grasp it. If not, hey, you could just rewind and listen to it again. But that was deep in a sense, but it was simple and powerful. And I thank you for sharing that. There's so many things, layers to really dive into here before we get too in depth. I want our listeners to know that you're a very gifted individual, and it's really cool how you guys just teamed up, produced an actual kind of produced a song and a music video on behalf of Lyme awareness. So it's even educational, and it's a beautiful song. You wanted to, you mentioned off air that you would plug something like you.
Well, one of the things is I've never sent my music off to a producer,
Okay.
especially not in Nashville. So this is kind of an exciting thing, that uh, although I wasn't feeling well, although I was in like a very dense brain fog, you still want to be human and purposeful. So
Right.
it was a workaround for me to still be productive with generating music without any involvement, because I was just not there.
Wow.
So anyway, I was just really excited that I found workarounds during the worst parts to still maintain some level of value, and purpose. So that was as much for me to produce that, just to give myself some credit for doing my best. So
Well,
anyway,
well, here it is, and it is a fun song to listen to. Even the words, like "Dear Lyme," like you're writing this story to this jerk of a disease.
pretty much
Let's
you
go.
personalized it. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and play it. Maybe all of it. I mean, at any point, if you want me to stop it, just let me know.
I think the whole thing through, because it is a beginning to end story that we can kind
All
of,
right,
yeah.
let's do it.
Thank you. Dear Lyme,
I don't like you.
You're not that cool.
Because the ones you find to bite you
Turn into a fool.
Wow.
Dear Lyme,
Dear Lyme,
I'm sometimes sad.
sometimes mad.
You took everything from me I ever had.
Where you pack your heat in the tiny little shell. No offense to God, but you belong in hell. Dear Lyme,
I just got roused.
you got good stuff.
You got my house, my spouse, my friends, and you.
I'm so sorry to pause it right here. Were you making a point?
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I was on mute, of course, because I'm technologically challenged.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was saying that when I wrote the songs, I had them insert the musical breaks between verses to have those pop up informational stats from specific widely respected resources. So
That's such a
just kind of
power.
talking through the design process here that I had a
Okay.
fun time pulling together.
Awesome.
Anyway, yeah.
We'll get back in.
Even took my job.
Dear Lyme,
Dear Lyme,
please go away.
be on your way.
I was pretty chill before until you got into my brain.
One of these days I'm gonna kick your tiny
I love it.
butt. I take all of these pills because it gets you riled up.
So in this so the second verse there we just listened to, and we can just kind of talk over it as it goes. But
It's kind of hard to hear, not gonna lie.
yeah,
At
it
least on
is.
my
So
end,
yeah,
to talk
it is
over.
on my end too. Yeah, so we can kind of talk over and keep it rolling here.
All right, we'll
But
start.
I really wanted to make sure that I was trying to appeal to the majority of people I had met along the way who were experiencing different
Dear
stages
Lyme,
of
I'm
the
just so
situation.
pissed.
And there is
I don't know if with the sound in the recording, this studio per se, it might be muting you out a bit. So it might
Oh, okay. Yeah,
we
yeah.
can make some
Unless
notes. We'll
keep
talk
the
about it because
lyrics
yeah,
rolling. Yeah.
we don't know. Like that's actually a great trial run, actually, right there. When we play it
fun.
back, if we
Yeah.
can hear you, I'm curious as to whether we can hear you clearly or not. Well, all I do know that I'll share, it's kind of a side note. When I've done screen shares before, personally, I've had with it playing, I've had to speak very loudly
Wow.
for it to overpower like the whatever system it's using. And I've realized if I speak quietly, it's just not. So basically, I typically don't try to speak over things anymore. I just pause them to make sure it's clear. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
go
go
for it.
ahead and finish this up, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
it is.
You made a mess of my life and you
Don't even exist.
Dear Lyme,
Dear Lyme,
just settle down.
you bring me down.
You spread yourself so far around and you're
Just a little tiny town. All the people in the world, I'm glad that you picked me. Because I can't take you on and I can make you leave. Dear Lyme, dear Lyme.
I freaking love it. Your voice, you have a gift. And the
Well, that
fact
wasn't me singing, so I'll have some other recordings out there, hopefully with my actual voice. But I was in no
you were
position at that time to sing. I just wrote the song and
you
sent a
wrote
rough
it.
cut to
Okay.
Nashville, and they selected all the studio musicians and vocalists. I just told them if it was a male or female, and this song I actually arranged as a duet because I
Okay.
wanted it to have both of a male and a female representation, since it's pretty equally divided on who gets this disease. So I wanted to appeal to both,
Wow.
to everybody, all ages, all people,
Well,
uh,
the more I
yeah.
listen to it's like the more I enjoy it. It kind of has that effect.
Cool.
That,
Yeah, I was hoping to make it catchy enough. I didn't want to do something depressing, because I wanted people to watch this that don't have Lyme.
yeah.
And so and so that they could kind of educate differently
Yeah.
outside of the medical information we have, or all of the different organizations are really great for providing resources, but I find people learn from songs as
Yes.
much as they do from books. And that was kind of the whole idea there, was to make the lyrics generic enough that people might say, oh, that happened to me too. Or like in particular for Dear Lyme, the one lyric that people tend to react to is the you made a mess of my life and you don't even exist.
Wow.
And I think that one, just for the people that have been in it trying to figure out why there's this mass social rejection, and it does, because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And then just to realize that maybe we're not confused. Maybe the situation is in fact confusing. And just to be able to know it's not me, because a lot of times,
Yes.
and maybe tell me this, James, because I think, maybe I'm referring it to it from a female perspective, but I know that when I feel like I'm invalidated, or if somebody challenges my reality and says what I experience is not real, but they know what I experience.
Yeah.
I think that's happened so much throughout my life, and I used to handle it really well before this.
But once you
I don't have any
flare it up,
defense,
yeah. Well, that's
How
where
is
we
that with
gotta
men?
up awareness. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering if it's as frustrating. I know some of my fellow friends, they get enraged when, they're downplayed, or anything like that. If they go in and they're desperate for help and they're not getting empathy or understanding or help,
Yeah.
I feel like I've noticed a little bit of a difference between women having a tendency to more internalize that upsetness, where my men friends are so mad that it's just unjust. It's
Yes.
what do you?
Yes. Well, how I would react to pretty much the sentiment you're touching on here is just how it freaking blows my mind
Yeah.
that an illness, a disease, a bioweapon that in fact is infecting and diminishing an individual, that is literally killing that individual, somehow relationships often become the bigger issue. Like, wrap your mind
Oh,
around that. Like, that is not right. That is not okay.
no.
And that is where awareness is key. And the thing is, Lyme disease isn't some fringe disease. You saw this stat right there. In fact, the CDC's
I think you froze. I don't know what happens now. I feel like we
we
should sing
glitched.
a song. Oh, there you are. Okay.
It glitched out. I apologize.
No
Why
worries,
does
no
it do
worries.
that?
But
When I get riled up,
yeah.
sometimes it just glitches. Come on now. Is it trying to
No,
tell
no,
me
no,
something?
no.
But the fact of the matter is, the CDC's Western blot testing is defective. Point blank. I could prove it. So
Unreliable.
it is the
It's
most
absolutely not
misdiagnosed,
worthless.
undiagnosed disease known to man. And as more and more doctors get Lyme literate and educate themselves, they in fact are confidently stating, in fact, the doctors I know, that they would be surprised if their finding weren't the truth. And their finding is that more Americans more than likely have Lyme disease than don't. Like, that's a pretty bold statement.
It is a
But
bold statement.
but
Yeah.
what's crazy is just the other day had a friend, not even really Lyme symptomatic, but now we can see, oh wow, the symptoms he had was due to a suppressed immune system, and he ended up doing that AO scan. Sure enough, Lyme pops up. He had no idea. And just another stat we'll talk about, there's a clinic here in Arizona that started off treating cancer, and I don't know if it was a special situation. They started onboarding Lyme. After they got to understand Lyme more, they started looking at their cancer patients with all like, we could see how this could be the precursor. So let's start testing our cancer patients just to see. Over 74% of their cancer patients, without knowing, had Lyme. So hypothetically, I mean, if we ran that just based on that clinic alone, we should run that study nationally or worldwide. And if it's anywhere remotely close to that percentage, just imagine we could potentially, by focusing on the root of the issue, not just eradicate cancers per se by focusing on the root of the issue, but prevent so many individuals from even dealing with cancer. Because, I mean, it doesn't take.
And just as much as far as statistically aligned with that is Alzheimer's. You know, there have been multiple research, you know, that were qualified, certified, demonstrating that I think it was like 70-something% were of Alzheimer cadavers tested, brains tested, had Lyme disease. And then so many other things. Like I remember post-pandemic vaguely, I was kind of in the thick of it, but
oh man,
there was a lot of uprising and awareness of mental illnesses, which was great and long overdue. However, I think there were a lot of people, including myself, that were getting misdiagnosed as something that, you know, may have just been a moment in time phenomenon type thing. But regardless, I was telling my Lyme doctor that, you know, it was pretty well known that all of psychiatric doctors were booked up for months out. And, you know, there were no facility availabilities. Everything was booked. And I mentioned to him, well, I swear if we gave him this good test like I took, not the one from the hospital, you'd probably free up, you know, at least half of the beds in that area with, you know, people that are just being misdiagnosed as they have their amygdala is on fire and their brain is blowing up, and it sure does look like a manic episode to me. Well, it may, but it's not. They're two different causes, and one cause is maintained a certain way and another cause can be treated to full restoration. So we're not giving us a chance when we have those types of symptoms to not assume that we can't be treated for it. Every one of my misdiagnoses prior to my Lyme diagnoses that did take, I was infected for 7 years before I got my Lyme diagnoses.
Wow. Okay.
And I'd collected a slew of varying diagnoses, but not one of them was treatable or curable. Or there was one that was supposedly treatable, but the treatment obviously didn't work because I didn't have it. But, you know, things like fibromyalgia. And I think my Lyme doctor, too, in my first visit with him, he'd mentioned first that a lot of people with late stage Lyme that become hyper symptomatic suddenly is because of some kind of physical or psychological trauma, car accidents, getting fired, divorce, etc.
Good point.
And so he said, there's not one person who has survived Lyme as long as you have and been able to carry on without really, you know, until I got to the point where I couldn't walk or see or anything like that. But, you know, that's where we all end up crashing. But he'd asked, for me to kind of retrospectively think back with when did my symptoms start, and how were they progressed.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of moments I could think back on that I could correlate cause and effect. My mom died, and then all of a sudden I had these symptoms, and this happened, and then I had these symptoms. So, it was those types of situations that, and I think you probably heard that as well too, that
Yeah, it got
sometimes trauma
extremely
exacerbates.
challenging for you. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where, no pun intended, Lyme literally is a ticking time bomb. At the point it is in your system, like, you want to know about it, whether you're symptomatic or not.
sure.
Obviously, sooner versus better, or sooner versus later is better, right? And not just that, you want to, at all costs, like, you don't want to wait till it's freaking chronic, because at the point it's chronic, it's clear that now you have a more viral load, so it's now it's going to be that much harder to eradicate. And I'm telling you, it takes you to the gates of hell. They call it's known within Lyme communities, the disease that won't necessarily kill you. It will, and it can, but it more so makes you wish you were dead.
It makes
So
you wish you were dead. Yeah.
it is horrific, and no one,
Intolerable. Hmm.
and that's where, kind of circling back to up an awareness to the people around us, so we could get proper support, because there's a difference between a loving individual showing up and being helpful, or being more damning to your situation. And that's where grace, understanding, education is truly key, because if they're showing up out of love and supporting you, but it's kind of making it out to be you, versus understanding, like, this is not your natural state. This damn spiral key is having and acknowledging this impact. Like, acknowledgement is what's key, to effectively show up on behalf of that individual to benefit their walk, right?
Absolutely. The thing that kind of prompted me to think of this, the change you go through as a human is so dramatic, right?
Mm,
And at
yes.
my stage, I was at the top of my game. Everything was going my way. And then it felt instant to me when
Really.
I just could not function at all. And I had a pretty significant involuntary movement disorder alongside of things. Um, but so two things that you mentioned there. One, I was raised by a military officer. I had very strict structure and expectations, that I was an individual who was conditioned not to make excuses,
Mm,
to take accountability for my actions, and you never failed until you failed to try. So the word can't, the words I can't, were literally omitted from my vocabulary. I would be punished should I
oh,
say I can't when given a direct order. And
mm,
that's what worked for me. It was comforting to know specifically what I was expected to do. And I was, so that was my learning process that I enjoyed up until I couldn't think anymore. I couldn't move anymore. I couldn't lift. I had zero strength. I couldn't walk anymore. So I'm having this complete shutdown of
right.
mind, body, spirit due to Lyme piling up, unrecognized and untreated for so long. And it was personally so disappointing to me that when the loved ones would show up and challenge when I'd say I can't, because it was
Mm,
so hard for me to say that. It was
right.
so hard for me to admit what
You
I could
literally couldn't.
never do,
Literally.
because I'd lived an entire lifetime that they all witnessed, seeing that there isn't anything that I can't or won't do if it's,
Right.
for the right reasons and things like that. But I don't I love challenges. The harder the work and the harder the problem, the more I want to solve it. I'm drawn to solving my own problems, and I couldn't solve my own problems for the
You
first time in
breezed
my life.
well, you breezed over some very powerful things, like the neurological impairments alone are entirely
Alone,
debilitating.
we are not in our right minds.
In a
Mm-mm.
way, I can't put enough emphasis on even the neurological because, like, I come experience head traumas, and also those traumatic events triggered the Lyme flare-up. So,
Right.
but people, I mean, I even hear Joe Rogan talk about back when I cared and I listened much to some of his episodes prior pandemic, but one of his greatest fears, it seems, because he would see his fighters, his friends, like their personalities and lives would entirely change after this head trauma would occur with them in the ring. So his greatest fear was, oh my gosh, like the basically head trauma and the impacts. And in a way, the neurological's similar to an extent where you can't even imagine not being able to function just due to your neurological not allowing it. But then there's also those other layers, like the lethargic mono-esque symptoms where you just simply
Sure.
out cannot get out of
Do you have
bed.
the Epstein-Barr virus too? Because I know that's a
Yes.
common
Mhm.
co-infection, and that's just, I mean, those viruses depend on your immune strength. There's
Yes.
nothing you can do for them. They're there forever. So those
Yes.
slips into that level of fatigue, like you
Yes.
mentioned, even though I feel I'm so grateful to be alive, and I didn't know if I was going to be this alive again, and I
Yes.
am. But I am not going to gaslight myself about the fact that I might dip into some symptoms throughout my life if I don't
Yeah.
take really good care of myself.
Yeah.
And even if I do take care of myself, it's possible I might crash for a few weeks like I did when I had mono. And it's
Right.
it's just something that now is it's part of our life now that we'll never shake that.
A level of acceptance and
Yeah.
acknowledgement to essentially then you can more so effectively make lemonade of the situations. Like,
You can
we need to
accommodate yourself. If you know the problem, accommodate it. No problem.
This
It's no
is
big
something
deal.
we both expressed gratitude on prior to the show, to be at a place, yes, we may still have our days, but to be at a place where we can more so take challenges with excitement, where before
Yeah.
the slightest stubbing of the toe, your world
Ooh-wee. Yes.
crumbles.
Yeah.
And people
Yeah.
around you just don't get it, and they essentially magnify the issues, and it just becomes this downward spiral. It's like, come on, like, you're just seeking some understanding out there from someone. And
Anybody to say, wow, I'm sorry you feel that way. That sounds horrible. That sounds horrible. Would have gone such a long way. To your point too, James, on the stubbing of the toe thing. I do remember one time because I did have to get in-home care because I live alone. I'm single. And so when I was doing specifically, well, I guess it was all the antibiotics. It wasn't just the IVs, but I had
Mm,
different people come in. And I remember sometime, and I had a hard time walking. I had horrible convulsions, tremors, things of that nature. And so I was always, flailing my arms around and then knocking stuff. And I tried not to say ow, right? But at one point I said ow, and they were in the, I remember whoever was there, assisting me, said something like, I don't know why that would make you mad, or I don't know why that it would upset you, or something to that degree. And I said, I'm not upset. The infection's upset. And I
uh,
can't control the mood of this infection. So
what a great perspective. Yeah.
stop blaming me for being attacked in my brain and my body and everything else. Like, guys, I swear I can't do anything about it. It is what it is. And
I
I
don't
think
get how
now that I
people
say it, now that I'm better, they believe me more. But for
yeah.
some reason, I could not get the belief and trust in my truth. when I was experiencing that truth. I don't know. Did it change for you?
Yeah, to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, some of the closest people in my life I know still fully don't get it. They just don't.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's interesting. I know naturally we have resilient bodies and
Right.
minds and all this, but then again, we're very defective and self-serving, especially in this country. But I also want to acknowledge the levels of attack. Lyme is one of them. But since America's conception, we have been the greatest threat to any dictator out there and to a lot of wealthy royals and, certain individuals. So, I mean, there's a reason as to why America's food supply, so many of the ingredients, so much of the actual food is illegal in 30 other countries. They've been poisoning us. So my heart genuinely does go out to some of these individuals that simply don't have the resilience to show up in an effective way, because they themselves, whether they, and it may even be an indicator that they in fact have Lyme, but it's let's calm down, James, and get words out. That's probably best here, right? We're on a
I have to do
podcast.
that too. Talk to myself and be like, dial back, baby, dial back.
Dial it back. But
it's hard not to get passionate about this topic when you've lived it.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And
No doubt.
it's crazy. In a way, I feel they're excusing themselves from having to. It's kind of an inconvenience to their lives if in fact what you speak is true in reality. It would take so much of their time and education really to understand that. I think it boils down to, for a lot of folks, they're just downright lazy. And it's easier to make you out to be the issue than do their research, understand it. They don't even really necessarily have to research it per se. They just have to, like, I don't.
Well, you're frozen there again, because I love what you're saying, and I think you're going to come back in just a minute. But as far as people taking in the, in the
Oh
field.
man.
Oh, there you're back. You're back.
I apologize. But
That's all right.
it's like we're visual creatures. And the fact is, under microscopes, we got this dang spiral key. It's a fibrous. It's real. It's real. Okay. And it goes everywhere.
And it's gross. Yeah.
Yes. It doesn't really have a limitation throughout the human body, which many illnesses do. It can burrow into ligament tissue, bone marrow, past the blood-brain barrier. And to your point on you not being you, the this not makes you. Like, I'm not a suicide. I know it, but I at a point would have taken my own life had I been functional enough to take my own life. I would sit there and plot. I would plot it, and I would try to come up with and it's sad to say, but that's a reality of so many that are in that chronic state. And that's why it's so crucial we're showing up, because they're hanging on by their fingernails on a cliff's edge. You don't want to be a breeze. You want to be a life-saving line, So there's a difference. Showing up loving, you don't want to blow them off. You're going to give them a lifeline. So,
right. Yeah, I think too on that, when it becomes chronic, like you're talking about, and I'm going to pile on a separate topic on the same one, is the unintended consequences. The thing that I don't know how I could have done differently. And the way I did it was really, really bad, which was I had an extreme sense of urgency. By the time I got so sick, I was literally scared for my life. The compounding issue, because it went on for so long, it caused a lot of damage. There were a lot of Lyme-related complications. That's a term, right? That says, if I've got that spirochete hanging out in my cervical spine and chewing up all the nerve endings and biting through all the bones, And I'm just going to let them do that until I can find somebody to look and see if what I think is happening is happening. And then, like you said, it's a spirochete. We know what a spirochete looks like. It's well documented. It's the first cousin of syphilis. Like, it's kind of like everybody knows there's an actual bug that you can visually see.
Yeah.
And they just don't know how to test for that bug, which I don't know why. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is that instead of looking for something that you can physically see, in my experience, I was suggested things that you can't see and you can't prove, like fibromyalgia, like functional neurological disorder, like neurological movement disorders, and the things that anything that they explain is happening in the software of your brain means they can't see it, they can't test it. They are looking at your behaviors and to be able to clinically diagnose based on your patterns. And so the consequence that I personally faced with the delays caused by people not looking for the right things. I had by the beginning of the when I became disabled was in 21, mid-year 21. And then all the way until December of 23, so just last December, my cervical disc degeneration had aged over 10 years into. They were collapsed between C4 through the end of C7.
Wow.
And it caused radiculopathy, myelopathy. I couldn't feel my hands or fingers. And as you know, I'm an instrumentalist. I'm a guitarist.
Oh gosh, you're right.
So all of these things aren't Lyme anymore. All the things I'm fixing now. The other thing is I had tumors in my adrenal gland and my thyroid. The adrenal gland ruptured. And that was when I was having my near fatal feeling episodes. I was thinking I was going to die naturally. So I didn't need to commit suicide. I was just kind of like, if I don't get this tumor out of me, I'm going to die in a matter of minutes anyway. And by that time, I was clearly made unwelcome in the ER, suggesting that I was exaggerating my bizarre symptoms. And the only thing that they had suggested was inpatient psych. And that was...
There's something here, Judith. There's something here, right here in this moment. And we could either allow Lyme to be the fuel behind it or the pandemic to be behind it. Because
I think it's a combination. That's, you know what? It's not just one thing, it's a compound.
Because this exposes Western medicine, how it now appeases big business and dollar bills more so than health and wellness on behalf of people. So with awareness on this, I mean, even cancer patients to this day, they're actually more so fleeing from chemo and seeking alternate, like there's more radical, awesome treatments like Rife and frequencies that's specifically targeting the cancers without killing every good cell in your body like freaking chemo is. And you follow the money behind chemo, it is sickening, right? So we need to reconstruct the whole, medical system in this country to our benefit. And we could do that. But so it takes, it's not, I feel, just awareness on Lyme. This could be the key to real health and like people achieving the best versions of themselves and living out their purpose in this life. But we got to put the proper checks and balances and restructure things to obviously have our health and wellness at the forefront.
And I think that's the key word there, James, is structuring. So prior to going on disability in 2021 with just unbearable Lyme symptoms, I used to do global consulting and specialized in organizational design and organizational change. And one of the things, to your point, because I did work a little bit in healthcare doing consulting and helping them organize their business so that all the checks and balances were in place, so all the processes were being enforced and trained properly, and all of those different human work type motivators. And this change is so significant. It's a transformation, and that's the journey, not the sprint, right? Because you've got, and the reason is because people do not naturally align around new ideas. That is basically the hallmark of why most businesses, in my experience, have a really hard time keeping the motion forward progress on all business levels.
Yeah.
And and I that my problem is that I'm hanging out with these doctors in these organizations that are it's so inefficient. They've got to know the administrative red tape has no practical value whatsoever. It's
You're so
100% sunk cost. And it's, so I could pick apart more defects in their structure than I can find enablers and leading edge concepts of how to run that type of a practice. And so it's like, okay, so it seems easy. Like, you're not great at doing healthcare. Everybody knows it, even the people that are running them. But changing it takes a whole different set of whats. And I don't know where those guys are. I don't know who the change champions are that are going to influence,
That's what we're trying to create right here, Judith.
Yeah,
No
right.
listener should discredit the impact they could have. But the reality of it is, it takes a
Good point.
level of setting down some of their life, like showing up in a self, because the reality of it is we continue on kind of the path we are. They want us sick. You can see what they tried to do with the pandemic. So every one of us has been under attack, and unless we start showing up in this manner, like I'm telling you, like part of me wants to tell people, like, well, if you don't do your part, we're all gonna get what we deserve. Like that's just what it boils down to. Like what else do you expect? Like I find it completely delusional to think someone could go back to a life of normalcy after a pandemic that was built off of a lie that shut down the freaking world, that impacted people on such negative levels. And their answers to that was to demonize the things that were actually beneficial. And under EAU and no FDA, it was like the switcheroo. No FDA approved vaccine went into arms. And now we're looking at the actual intended consequences in my eyes, because you look at the patents, you look how Pfizer knew and there wasn't informed consent. This is horrific. This biological warfare, it's 5th generation warfare, and people aren't acknowledging it enough, especially in this country, to show up in an effective way to where it isn't going to repeat itself. Now tyranny knows what they can get away with, and monkeypox is already around the corner, and they tried triggering the bird flu, but so I digress.
Hey James, in your experience, because I would venture to say 30% of the people that I've met in the community, their Lyme symptoms were triggered by the vaccination or getting the infection.
I have 2.
That's probably low.
Yes, that's low. But I have 2 individuals that I've been speaking to personally that unfortunately they're declining. They're still finding, and that's a problem in and of itself. What helps one individual doesn't necessarily help the next.
No one size fit all. Right.
It's an individual path, because there's so many different co-infections. Their genetic makeup, their immune system's just different. So there's a different order to handling things. And that's once again, awareness is key to help those individuals that are suffering. But we got to get ahead of the whole biowarfare side of things too. But yeah, I know 2 individuals personally that attribute their Lyme disease from that jab, hands down. They're like, it is clear as day. Even their doctors, luckily they have doctors that are in the know well enough that their doctors are on board with that too. I'd love to have those doctors on. Oh my gosh. But their licensing and everything would be under grave threat. But so
I thought logically, because we were talking about how a lot of different types of diagnoses kind of mirror or they're imposters, right, of Lyme symptoms. But one of those is called functional neurological disorder, which is actually considered psychiatric. But where you can't control your movements. And one of the things after I learned, and that's how I learned about my Lyme, was somebody that I'd met in an FND group said, "Have you ever been bitten by a tick?" And I was like, "Yeah, 7 years ago, no biggie." But anyway, point being, there are some people that have talked about they had their FND symptoms started after they got the vaccination. So I think I'm seeing different things in my perspective view now, getting informed and aware of Lyme, right? What it is, what it can do, how bad it can get. So then I reach back out to those same FND people saying, would you be willing to do a Lyme test? Because if so, it's not, there is something you can do about it.
I personally feel
you can take treatments for it and it can go away. Look at me. I'm not moving. I'm not shaking. I'm fine.
We need to create a very effective test to where everyone in this world takes it. Everyone takes
like
the test.
drive-in COVID lines. Like,
different. I mean, that
almost to that tipping point though. There's got, I think, if there was an over response or, if that response was to eradicate the progression of it before it spread beyond, and people were dying because there was no reason, there were no ways to keep them alive at that time. So the urgency was real.
Yeah.
Here, I think that there is just en masse. Yeah. And the level of people that are dying either by choice or not by choice from this disease has reached a tipping point that really does need a much higher level of urgency, including the cost that we're spending on treating people for diseases they don't have when they should be taking antibiotics or whatever, naturopathics or, whatever's available on their choice. Because as you said, it's personal. Right. But man, gosh, you simplify it and dumb it down that much. It just seems like, gosh, guys, it's only 6 steps. Let's go. Yeah. But no, I don't know that we're ever going to hustle, but hopefully we're getting closer to a tipping point for someone to respond.
I want to challenge the listeners to just send this far and wide. Like, do your part in that regard. At minimum, reach out to family members, start having those discussions at dinner, but send it to all your contacts, send it on all your social medias. We're really trying to create the proper momentum that will lead to the betterment of all humanity. And we can do that. Do not discredit yourself. Now, Judith, I love you. I could see how your heart, you want to light that fire. You want to come up with the solutions. What I would like to dive into,
Oh no. Hold on, you're glitching. Do 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 do.
I apologize. It's glitchy today.
No, that's all right. You're getting ready to dive in, so not too bad.
What I would like to capture a little more of, and I really have a feeling you brought up a brilliant idea on doing a type of series where we really actually go in depth, and that's something to consider. So listeners, we may have Judith and create a sub channel right here on Rumble where she goes through almost chapter by chapter of this crazy roller coaster that is life threatening. But to just kind of grasp on this episode a bit as to how dark things got, what led to breakthrough, because I would love to breathe more light into some individuals. Not that it's a comparison, but the reality, when I heard some of your story, I'm like, I literally couldn't imagine things getting any worse than they did for me. And had I been in your shoes, I don't know if I would have made it. I might have added to that horrific statistic on folks throwing in the towel. And man, it got really dark for you. I mean,
Yeah. And I think, as I was kind of thinking, we do everything we can to get the right support for relief. And after multiple attempts in your trial and error and everything fails, you run out of ideas. And so kind of getting to that point where it's so agonizing, I didn't call it suicide in my mind. I called it euthanasia because it just like I've had to euthanize, my best companions in life at times. It was because they were suffering so bad and I couldn't do anything to stop their suffering. However, I never went there in ideation or, actually planned anything. And the reason is because I think it's probably more of, I had to discover my own spiritual position on the topic. And it was more like, it's not my call. If I'm going to die, it will be of natural causes or an accident. I already decided that a long time ago. That's just how people are supposed to die. So I'll do it that way.
but in the midst of your struggle, you lost loved ones. You ended up having surgeries. You got led astray medically. I mean,
just spending the night in the hospital for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
And without parents alive, without any, relatives around, without any significant other, I just did not see that coming. If you'd asked me before this happened, like, do you ever expect you'll have an overnight stay in a hospital for something medically necessary? And I would have been like, I can't until I'm like later in life when it's all appropriate, but not in my condition. I feel great. But 2 times I had to do, surgeries that were so significant. I had to do overnight stays and I didn't know what was going on. I was in that fog of confusion where nothing made sense. And, just kind of waking up in a hospital room for the first time in your life when you don't even know where you are or, it wasn't loneliness. It was unanticipated autonomy that I can't do in that condition. I did it because I didn't have any choice. How I survived it is as astonishing to me as anybody else who watched the story in detail. I remember at the beginning too, when I got the diagnosis and I let my buddy know, who was the one who asked if I'd been bitten by a tick. And I'd said, is there any humanly way possible I'm going to be able to survive this on my own and do the treatments on my own and manage all of my administrative responsibilities on my own and just be responsible, 100% my caretaker as the patient? Can I do that? And she'd said, I genuinely cannot think of one way that anybody could. And that's when I knew I had to hire help, which was, again, I didn't see it coming. I didn't have a plan.
Hire help. So that's another big challenge because
I had a bookkeeper.
Financing. Like, how do you?
I had to get creative.
Wrecking. Didn't you end up selling your home?
I did. And the house that I'd had for 18 years, I'm a restorationist. I do historic restoration. And the house, when I bought it, looked nothing like when I left it. I'd done a lot of work to it. So the thing is, I was motivated for 2 reasons. One, I was cash poor, so I didn't have enough money to do the out of pocket without paying interest. And interest is just sunk cost to me. So that was a significant motivator. And the other one was that house was too big for me as an individual person with mobility issues. I couldn't get around it. So I moved into a house, which is actually still very sizable and
Nice.
equally nice. Just very, it's nearly half of the other. But nonetheless, I was able to build in the accommodations I noticed I needed: grab bars, ramps, chair lifts,
Wow.
all sorts of different things. And to your point, that stuff adds up.
Yep.
And then, God forbid, you get the mold exposure, because that remediation, if done right, is not cheap. But
No.
it only works if you
Was
do
that
it
a bunch
right.
of your IVs and everything?
Well, no, I think just it was kind of like 2/3 of the way through I developed, through mold exposure, some toxicity.
Yeah.
It wasn't from my house. So there was mold that was detected in my house. So I did do the full
Mhm.
sweep, because you can't heal in that environment. And I was still
Right.
taking
That's
treatments.
so
It just wasn't going to get any better. I'll tell you what, the thing that should be notable to anybody who's known me for any significant period of time is I quit smoking because I knew I would not heal if,
Mm.
in all of the condition, with all of the toxicity happening towards that end part of my treatment, I stopped eating peanut butter. I mean, just stuff that you're just like, what? I mean, in
Right?
addition to all the gluten and everything else that we have to change our diet because we're highly sensitive to with high
You have to
histamines.
learn everything, that even peanut butter has a pretty
Everything.
high level of mold in it. Like, people don't
I
even what? It no, it
I
doesn't.
had
Yeah.
no idea. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yes. So the
Mhm.
that whole thing, but the price tag associated with it, I'll tell you, I did not hold back. Because I was able to I'd had enough equity in this house that I would be able to access the funds I needed. I also had a really great employer before I left, that I'd started with the company in '98 and then bounced back and forth until 2021, when I became disabled. And I had benefits that I bought through my employer for short and long-term disability. I had great insurance. So I was really sitting pretty for the bomb to drop. Coordinating it was hard enough, but for those that have to do the added thing of beg, borrow, and steal for money to get alive, to stay alive. And it is a life or death feeling,
You've
right?
done
That it is so,
fundraisers, GoFundMes, like, oh,
and
yeah.
they
It
mean it.
Mhm.
It's not inflated. I don't see anybody who's asking for something they don't genuinely need.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate I didn't have to reach out for financial help. As a matter of fact, I was telling a buddy, because I did, and I told my Lyme doctor this too. I said, I have professional privilege. I have really good career benefits
You
that
know,
most of the people I know in this community do not.
you
So I
you're
ended up doing
reminding me of
donation.
Allie Hilfiger. You know Tommy Hilfiger?
I
The
was,
Yeah, so
yes.
Allie
She's a
Hilfiger is
Spitfire, isn't
Tommy
she?
Hilfiger's daughter that dealt with Lyme, and I love in some of her speeches where she's like, "Lyme don't discriminate, it
Right,
doesn't matter on skin pigmentation, it doesn't matter your status in this world." She also, with spare no expense, like top of the line doctors, top of the line
right, right.
facilities. It actually was a rehabilitation type of center, like an asylum, so to speak, that she's grateful because through that admitting into that facility, they picked up on the Lyme, which led her on this crazy journey to healing. And even then, money didn't mean like she was going to have breakthrough on her health. Like
No, it doesn't
it
take any less time to
right.
get through the
But
treatments.
but for the
You can,
majority of folks, like, so she's even speaking out on even coming from that. So this just highlights for those that more so don't, and I'm advocating on behalf of the Limers that don't have the funds even, but she was even stating like how life threatening it was even for her coming from a life of privilege. So for those
yeah.
that don't.
And I'm kind of middle class there, but your point is
Right.
taken. She,
Well,
she's
it just,
another
it
one
just,
too
I'm trying to
that's really-
magnify the
yeah,
importance on awareness, because we
right.
need to make like a paved road for these individuals, and also the financial assistance to get through it, because that burden alone can also, it could put you in a place where you're not healing, because the financial stressors alone is just keeping Lyme ravishing your body.
And it bankrupts a lot of people. It's so
Yes.
unjust. It's not fair.
Yeah.
The thing you were saying about Allie too, she's one of the people that also I think was in a psych ward for a little bit with or for some time with Lyme symptoms, and ended up being able to flip that guy over. But sorry, not to get off track here, but you're right. It's like we can't have any division within everybody who's equally as suffering. And there are a lot of different options for treatments available, and not one size fit all standards, and they all come at different price points.
Yes.
And so really being able to understand what are my options.
Yeah.
A lot of times what I feel badly for is that people are making those hard choices of, I wish I could afford Rife because I'm not tolerating the antibiotics.
Right.
That may be cheaper, but I have to pay for the office visits, and those are really expensive out of pocket. And, they're having to really put together a detailed budget that they know is going to dictate their survival.
Wow.
That's so heavy.
Yeah,
That's
to
so
plug
heavy.
into the communities can be greatly beneficial, but you gotta sift through those even, but there's a lot of loving people that will give the shirt off their back in these communities that get it. If you could be so lucky to find some people locally near you, they can kind of build things out for you to an extent and help. But one thing I want to touch on here, we keep bringing up tick. I want people to understand that it's been proven that every single type of biting insect, in fact, can transmit Lyme. It does become debatable as to whether that, biting insect, such as a mosquito, is actually infected, or in fact, if it's just transmitting from an infected to a non-infected, but it can be done. So once again, it isn't just ticks. It isn't.
Spiders.
Yes. And also, once again, those shots, inoculations. It has been proven that the whole even childhood vaccine schedule has harmful things. So until people, this is where it's education's key. I'm not telling you what to do, but everyone should do their research. It is insane that we've been blindly entrusting to the point we are lining up our children to getting 80 different shots by the time they're 18 now. And most parents can't even name off a single ingredient. That is insane. And the ingredients of the Cheerios you feed your children. Like, come on now. That's just ludicrous. Okay.
Yeah, I think hiding information, and I know that everybody in the world is annoying every medically trained practitioner, but I think one of the things I saw, one of these memes or something that said, your 1 hour lecture on my disease should not prevent me from Googling something that I have lived with for 20 years. I'm saying it wrong, but the point is that it's become kind of an academic conflict, right? Because if I say, like for the Social Security, for example, I don't think I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but when I was getting my medical eval, and
We're unmuzzled chat. Unmuzzled.
Yes, thank you for reminding me.
Come on.
Right
Take that muzzle off.
Yep. Brand. Anyway, so I don't care if I get it or not, but the point is, I shouldn't say that. I really should get it. To the Social Security spies. So the medical evaluation that you go to, and for disability, there's like 5 stages, and the rule is supposed to be if you are unable to work because of illness and disability for more than 12 months in the same kind of occupational capacity that
Mm.
you had for the previous 5 years, then you're disabled. So that's all you need to do to win. I'm like, I meet all of those criteria. I'm going to apply. I applied once, got rejected, applied second time, get into the medical eval. And the doctor that was conducting this to see if I was disabled or not, I was explaining that I was taking Lyme treatments, that I expected that I would continue to improve with treatments. But what I could not tell was going to be any residual damage after treatments, those Lyme related complications that I absolutely have today.
Wow.
He said, "Why are you taking this and that?" And I said, "Well, and then I have the Jerish-Herxmeyer reaction, which is common that happens." And he said, "Jerish-Herxmeyer only happens with spirochetes." And I said, "Yes, Borealis, Bergdorferi is in fact all the Borealis are spirochetes as far as I understand." And he was like, "No, they're not." And I was like, I don't know where to volley now. So I said, all right. And he goes, and you're not herxing all the time. You can only herx one time. And I said, well, and according to my Lyme expert medical doctor, he's mentioned that herxing can occur anytime you change up a protocol, you change the dosage of a protocol, or you break a protocol and restart a protocol. Those are all opportunities for the herx toxicity feeling to present itself throughout your treatments. So I tell him this, right?
Yeah.
Man, does that make him mad. Like I was trying to one up him. And
Well, they've been fed, a lot of
her.
these doctors, they've been
Yeah.
indoctrinated to literally, like, it's they've been pedestaled with all this pride and ego, and it's crazy the complex so much of them end up with. It's not until I know a lot of doctors, like, their heart is in the right place when they view their education like they're in remission from that indoctrination, and now they
Yeah.
themselves and they're continually practicing medicine. They actually listen to their patients. They realize they'll never know it all, and they become more effectively specialists in the field due to that meekness. Like
Oh, sure.
guys like
They're
that, I
doing their
want to
own
smack
research.
across the
Yeah.
head. We ought to pull their license. That guy's not in it
Yeah.
for the
Right.
what a
Right.
bozo.
I don't know. I've always failed to understand, and maybe is why infectious disease is from a regulatory perspective allowed to omit Lyme from those which they will test and treat. And every major hospital system has an infectious disease department.
Wow.
Why won't they talk about Lyme? I mean, they won't. I know. I found out.
That kind of more so shows I think they're trying to skirt responsibility. I mean, it was
And
only till it was only
cost.
yes, cost. And yeah, 100%. Anything that's gonna like steer people away from their pharmaceuticals and their money, because my goodness. But it was only recently that the CDC even started recognizing Lyme as a chronic illness disease.
Last October, I remember the
Isn't that
date.
insane?
And that's where I started thinking about the tipping point. I
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
hoping we'd piggyback a little bit more on the long COVID.
Oh, really?
And I don't know why they didn't reverse those, because both of those were updated in the CDC at the same time. Long COVID and chronic Lyme were both introduced as conditions that could have symptoms long term
Wow.
once acquired. But anyway, so yeah, that was it just last October, James.
It it makes me want
Nuts.
to, like, have people ask themselves if they actually value this existence. Because I think, that's even kind of what it boiled down to make it through all of this and put in the work. And if anyone values this existence, then they would actually start to take their health genuinely, like, serious, right? And not be poisoning their system. We'd start to integrate parasite cleanses annually and just all these other things. So we truly need to up the general health in this country to provide even better solutions. I mean, that's what it all just stinking boils down to. But how do we articulate the words in such a way? Because it's like we've been diminished, demoralized, and impacted to such a degree that it's become, unless I myself become afflicted, what do I care? Almost, they're not literally stating that, but that's, if you based it by action, that's what their actions show, because they're
You don't
not
get it
showing
till
up
you
on
get
the
it. They don't
yeah.
get it. Yeah, and there's really nowhere. It's just, and you don't want anybody to get it. So it's not like, God, I wish you would just have this experience for like one day, and it would totally change your entire attitude about it. Whoever it is that we're trying to convince that it's as bad as we think it is. But what was the other thing you said?
There are over 300 other illnesses attributed to Lyme, all immune related.
Right.
Like,
All
if
immune
we
related.
actually really effectively ironed all this out, we can't even fathom as to the positive health impacts we would have. It is so astronomical, just Lyme related alone. And I think by really turning over a lot of those stones, it's just going to turn over other solutions. Like we should allow this to be the catalyst, or the smoking gun be the pandemic. Just folks need to take this serious, because it's your life, it's your children, and it's essentially the key, I feel, that will even secure our future politically, because we're not going to be so ill that no matter what aisle you stand on, you're going to be able to get back to agree to disagree and have
Right.
a respectful conversation with one another. But we're not able to, because we've effectively been poisoned in our hearts, in our minds, in our soul, and in our freaking bodies. Like, it becomes proof. You could see what's happening. And
I just don't understand why we're debating the reality of something that we can all see. I
yeah,
still cannot get over that level of confusion that is maddening.
talking about just Lyme specifically, yes, once again, yeah, something we
And all
can
the
see
other 300
under a
possibilities.
microscope.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Which I
That
have 7 of those too. 7 possibilities of things that could have been transmitted. Because, like you said, it's just like bugs are like a needle with legs, and they'll get you.
yeah,
And you can transmit either, like you said before, either between the infected animal or person
yeah.
to a non-infected person, and they're going to get infected. So the whole vector-borne concept was totally new to me. I really didn't understand transmission that way. I always thought the bugs were infected. They were just born that way.
Well, there's an
That's not how it
additional
works. That's not how it works.
layer to
Yeah.
infection,
Mm,
is passing down to your kin.
yeah.
Doctors, for the longest
Yes.
time, a lot of doctors were saying men can't, but a lot of doctors are saying men can. And I'd imagine if a man's viral load is bad enough, given those particular organs, yeah, it makes sense that they'd be able to transmit. But a woman, 100%, because the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
creation and how 100%, if a woman has Lyme, her son, her daughter is going to 100% have Lyme. So you rewind that, this is dating back to the 50s or the Cold War, and you just look over time as to how see, I can, even in my chimp brain, I can kind of grasp as to why so many of these doctors are boldly stating that more
Yeah.
Americans more than likely have it than don't.
And like
So
every other type of disease, like the flu or anything else, it evolves. And I really do think that Lyme has evolved. And maybe it's because of all the trash that I put in my body that I didn't realize, was bad for, or whatever. I wasn't really taking care of, health. I didn't need to. I was naturally healthy. But the diseases that we get now, it just feels like people, originally with Lyme, like was on the Carlson story, kind of on a bookend here. Their thing was having grapefruit size arthritis in their joints. And now it's a lot of other issues that I'm not sure if they were as pronounced as they were 20, 30 years ago, like the neurological, like the endocrine, like the cardiac, and all of those different things that end up getting jacked up while you're, while you're infected. So anyway, really great insight there too, I think.
Well, so to let's we are an hour 20 now. Let's kind of slowly wrap up here a bit, but let's grasp some of the hope. Like, what were some of the things for you that led to breakthroughs emotionally, spiritually, physically, like actual tangible things on the whole spectrum? Because obviously this isn't just, it's not like you only get healing through meds. Like it's encompasses everything. So, tangible things that led to just those biggest breakthroughs for you that other individuals are seeking that they could implement and try.
Yeah. So, in the interest of time, there are two practical tips and tricks that I learned that might be helpful to anybody to try. One of them is around, we do experience a lot of doubt from family, friends, medical, everybody. I don't know anybody's going to go through this experience and not be surprised with the amount of doubt people have about what they're explaining. And that can be really dangerous, because if you're trying to keep yourself motivated, if you're trying to keep yourself strong and tough and fighting and pushing and, just going past that comfort, really moment by moment, daily by daily, the last thing you need is to start doubting yourself. And when you doubt yourself, you can't keep up that momentum. So the technique that I learned to minimize the amount of self-doubt that we internalize every time we have those bad conversations, it's really based in the cognitive behavior therapy. That is a pretty common, tons of content out on it on YouTube. But essentially all it is that when you receive information and you have an emotional reaction to that information, you can basically control your reaction. You can't control what they say or do, but what you can control is you can stop it from becoming internal, that prevents you from being as strong as you potentially can be.
Wow.
So that's the whole thing. So CBT is basically saying there's no such thing as all or nothing thinking. There's no such thing as mind reading. I can't do that. There isn't anything so you're basically rationalizing what just happened in a way that you don't have the emotional reaction as much. There's only so much it'll do. But I think that was one of the things, was noting when somebody said something and I felt myself getting upset because I have a brain infection that is very irritable, right?
Lyme rage.
Irritable irritability that I already have and I can't fix it, right? So if you're already in that irritability, you do not want to snap in public. Nobody does anyway, but especially in these situations where there's so much scrutiny about Lyme. So if somebody had said something and I felt myself getting upset, I would be able to build this routine that said, this is a human person sharing their opinion, and what they're looking at is not match what's happening. I can't, he's not right, but I can't call him wrong. And so it helped me just kind of leave it there.
Good for you. I would end up like conflict, and it would just blow up, and it would it's just terrible.
I was too weak, and I just didn't.
I got to apologize about that.
Yeah.
because it would
So
just
I think
spiral.
that's one
So
thing, just kind of keeping your behavior in a way that isn't going to raise flags that are inaccurate, right? So you don't want some hysterical chick just going on about things that are impossible. Instead, they can say, you're exaggerating these bizarre symptoms. And I will say, I don't believe that is actually my reality, but I don't know how to convince you otherwise. And
so you're
just run as fast
minimizing,
as I can. Huh?
like you're minimizing the flight or fight response, which is huge because when you do,
It only hurts me.
when you end up in a fight or flight, your immune system shuts down because it becomes, it just tries firing things up as though you're running from a freaking lion. So
Right.
now Lyme's like, heck yeah, let's breed more in the brain. And then next
And
thing you know, ugh.
it's instinct. So there are very few actual human instincts but that is one of them, that the fight or flight is an instinct. If you feel that you're in danger, it is the defense mechanism telling your brain to run or fight. And with that too, I had meningitis. I was being treated for meningitis, which meant my brain was swelling when I
Mm,
got upset. It was literally
wow.
swelling inside my skull. So it felt like on the outside of my skull, somebody was just compressing it while my brain was expanding on the inside with nowhere to go.
I'm
A
so
very,
glad you
very
gave.
painful thing to do.
Yes. That was
So
great insight.
yeah, and I'm not, that is very common with, certain strains of Lyme and things of that nature. But if I got upset, it meant that I was going to have this reaction.
Yeah.
That the only way to avoid it was to dismiss and not engage doubters. And it was essential for my healing. The other thing, and while we're talking about Lyme rage, there's another thing called dialectical behavior therapy, DBT. And specifically, there's something called distress tolerance. And again, you can YouTube it, DBT, distress tolerance. And it gives, I think, 4 different skills that you can use to calm down that amygdala that you were just describing with your brain on fire. One of them is just splashing cold water on your temples. Another one is going through a body scan and just saying, I'm only paying attention to my fingertip. I'm only paying attention to my knee. And that kind of de-escalates your emotion regulation, not to fly off the handle, and distress tolerance, which is uncontrollable, and sometimes with people who have Lyme rage. So those were the 2 things that I found, like, practically other people that tried those different non-medicated type of techniques that were available in their heads were actually, could actually be helpful in trying to minimize the awfulness of those. Yeah.
We do need to emphasize, like, it's great. Those are great tools for an individual that's struggling. It's really hard to grasp in those moments because, like, that individual it could, as though it wasn't hard enough with this debilitating disease. Now I'm having this doubter. It's just, everything crumbles apart. So I want to emphasize for those individuals that are showing up to have more empathy and understand more, be like, you know what, and recognize, acknowledge, in a sense, that I can see the way I am showing up is not benefiting this individual, and just kind of step back and rethink things on how, what is it that's keeping you from having a positive outcome. It might be pride, it might be ego, even, that
It was
you
mine. I was so down on myself. I was just, it was so sad because I didn't want it to end that way. I'm in a really great career, top of the world, and then it crashes and everybody goes away, and then you're like, now what? And like you said, keeping your spirit up is part of your treatment regimen, do you agree?
What else? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. What
Yeah.
else? Yeah, so that kind of even to sum that up too, for some individuals, it's wise to set healthy boundaries. As much as you want to draw near that individual, you could find replacements that more so understand what you're going through in like even the communities, right? And
Right.
that could help keep you at peace because that is crucial to really get out of this. You can't, if every once a week, even one individual is just pushing all your buttons to an extent, like it's just going to flare up. There's certain flare ups that it took a month to recover from, you
No
know?
doubt. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, and it's bad. And I had a pretty toxic relation with an individual that, yeah, it became clear,
Yeah. That's not a
and
I've heard that story too, where people realize the
yes,
relationships they're in are not healthy when they become unhealthy, and they don't have
yes.
the same expectation of what, might have happened. But,
Do you have any
um
tips on or things that helped you actually medically? Like, did the IVs lead to breakthrough? What did those
I was
consist of,
super
or
aggressive,
what?
and
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to work with a doctor who's really good at individualizing his treatments towards people's tolerance.
Mm,
And I made it very clear, my urgency because of the damage I would continue to, uh, you know, e ensue, by letting it go for long. So I wanted to be as aggressive as he possibly would give me permission to be. And
oh,
I was really fortunate that I didn't have any sensitivities before to medications. I didn't have any known allergies. There wasn't really anything,
okay.
unlike a lot of people that are
Is this
just, they already know they're allergic to stuff.
is
We're
this a
gonna
contact that you would be willing to share if someone was in your area?
Yeah,
Where
I
are
went
you?
to,
Are you in Minnesota?
no, I'm in Missouri, good middle of the
Missouri.
country, Penn State. Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
But but, I do see in Missouri, right in the middle of the United States, basically. His name is, Dr. Charles Christ with the Christ Clinic. And I think one of the reasons I felt comfortable automatically trusting him in to make these decisions, with me, was he was a military flight, uh, medic, surgeon before he started dedicating to treating, people with Lyme exclusively.
Mm,
And I don't know the whole backstory, but I did, talk to mutual friends that said his family, had acquired Lyme, and that's when he
wow.
developed the
Okay.
expertise.
Yeah.
But he's kind of what I think of in my mind when I think of doctor, right? Where it's somebody that I know has the skills and abilities and willingness to figure out, how to treat illness regardless of how complicated he gets. He's just, he's not a giver upper kind of guy. And
Okay.
he's super, he has a lot of range in his different approaches that again are really based on on the patient's, level of comfort. So I have high pain tolerance. I was living independently and was able to afford in-home care. So I wanted to go, I will unmuzzle and say balls to the wall
Oh,
and
yeah.
just knock that shit out as fast as I possibly could before it got worse. And it was getting worse every day. I could feel it getting worse every day. So the
Wow.
regimen that I went on, I had 12 different combination protocols in 16 months that included 20 different antibiotics.
Wow.
And on top of those antibiotics, antifungals, I had,
Yes.
you got to layer those in, especially if you're going to control that mold reaction. Um, I've heard. And I did I did a round of parasitic. So there was a lot in there, and I actually put it on kind of the 16-month plan. But I did the first 5 months IV because the Bartonella and the Borrelia were both, it seemed that they were both in my brain and my neck.
People think I'm out of the woods. I'm still taking itraconazole, which is antifungal. I'm taking ivermectin, and there's a bunch of other. It's
yeah, and I do. We've got the plan set. So should I become symptomatic, we already know what I'll do next, and I already have it. So I'm still like until I have those moments. But you mentioned it before, but the alternative things is what I've been working on now. Like there's this Nikki watch that has a Lyme setting for infrared that helps with building the strength of your immunity and your blood supply.
Wow.
I think is what it does. And then Rife. So I invested in that guy for my long-term feel better stuff. I still have to figure out the software for it. It's not easy. But I'm trying to kind of move into some of those more or less intrusive kind of therapies. But I always thought, because both of my parents had chemo. You mentioned chemo before. It's not, everybody knows to expect when you're on chemo that you're going to feel worse before you get better is kind of the idea there. It's going to jack up your appetite and cause some very uncomfortable symptoms.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see the difference between the antibiotics I was taking and the chemo my parents took with the side effects of those treatments. And so I already knew that I had to go through a certain level of additional agony in order to be able to kill it, to eradicate it, right? Because I am just, there are so many different armies, just vandalizing.
Cursing's no joke. I mean, my God. How did we make it through? It really does blow my mind because here you are at a point
it's the detox pathway. Like, I don't understand. I never thought that in a million years I'd have to even learn about these things, right? Much less apply these things to myself. And oh my gosh. So the toxic, I would say that
we have been under an illusion that we can rely on quote unquote experts. We've had to become our own experts
we've been forced to be our own experts. And detox is the name of the game. If you're doing treatments of any kind, it does not matter. The carcasses of those dead bugs that you just killed, however they were killed, are going to build up in your lymph nodes, in your bile ducts, in your gut, in your esophagus, in your skin. I mean, just the variation of rashes I had in that 16 months, out of control, right?
Pimples, boils, all sorts of skin issues. Like to this day, it is wild. And I have scars. I mean, you just wouldn't wish it on anyone. But you just hit on something.
For no reason, just weird.
Oh yeah, flush. Yeah. Yes. So you just hit on something so powerful. I mean, if we were to just have one thing, like, well, no, awareness and all these other things, but on an individual level, things everyone should be integrating into their lives because we live in such toxic world. I mean, it's all laid out there. We're being poisoned by the air, the water, the food, the inoculations, by frequencies even. And like our environments, oh my gosh. So detox truly is the name of the game, not just for Lymers, but also anyone seeking health. I know some
preventative detox by putting your preventions on, figuring out, I get that picking them off at the end is how we used to do it, but I don't think it's good enough anymore. I don't think it has to be embedded for 3 days in order for you to get as infected as I did. I don't buy it anymore. I think it's evolved. I think people are more sensitive to getting it than they realize. And be a goofball. Put your socks on the outside of your pants when you go honking, and just act like you're the best Lyme advocate that you could become by demonstrating this is safety first now. And it's anybody. It's anybody and everybody, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Judith, it's been such a pleasure having you on the
It's fun. Thank you.
I love your energy. It's like we're both talkative individuals, and we're just so passionate. And I love that about you. And you definitely have a lot of gifts, and I'm just grateful that you made it through. And in a huge way, as much as we could victimize ourselves and look back and be like, man, my life really was stolen from me. That sucks. This wasn't fair. Where would I be without it? And you know what? What you're doing right now, so selflessly, is gaining back your life. I truly feel that. It's such a blessing to show up in this capacity. And I challenge more to do that. And
I'm reinventing it. You know what I mean? And I can, because nothing is familiar to me anymore. From when this started to where I am now, there is nothing the same. I have a different house. I have a different car. I have, different friends. I have, my parents died. My sister died. I don't have family for the first time. And so all of these things are so new. I've never had chronic illness. I've never had to complain about hardship. And so I get to, now that I've gotten to this level of recovery, it's awesome. I get to reinvent myself. Like you said, it's kind of a beautiful thing. I'm very grateful, and I'm very passionate about other people having the same opportunity I made for myself. And whatever I can do to share to help, that's where my purpose is these days.
Well, you've done a beautiful job today, and would love to have you on at any point. And you're a thinker, and you think outside of the box. I love that about you. And who knows, maybe we'll get creative here to the betterment of folks with Lyme and folks without Lyme. There really is a whole restructuring that needs to be had. And there is a role for every American to play in that, if in fact they value this existence, if they value the future. Parents and individuals, I believe in a huge sense of the purpose of being here in a way is to leave off things better than you walked into. And we are greatly failing. Great.
I think that I don't know where that went, but I was always the value system that I understood was my responsibility, and I don't know where it went. But I do want to give you a shout out and a compliment as well. I have genuinely enjoyed collaborating with you. I just like how we can bounce different topics and ideas and really see a much bigger perspective together. That I really enjoy that. So thank you for letting me hang out with you. You're pretty wicked cool.
Oh man, Judith, that just made my day. I appreciate you.
It's a mutual.
Thank you. But the honor's all mine, truthfully. And just one life at a time, one story at a time. Listeners, I hope you can grasp what we're trying to achieve here. Smash that like button, comment, get engaged, ask Judith some questions. Look at her. She'll answer you. And let's create some momentum together. It's so fulfilling. It truly is. Now, I'm going to plug a few affiliations because there are some calls to action that will also help lead to ensure a better tomorrow, such as Patriot Mobile. Why fund BlackRock anymore when you can fund a Christian conservative mobile network that will give you levels of privacy and protection? You might even save money and up your cellular coverage. What are you waiting for? Go to their webpage, click it below, see what they're all about for yourself. Give them a call even. The point you call, just mention Unmuzzled. They'll waive fees and take care of you. Other than that, American Reserves, we live in challenging times. And like I'm stating, this 30-day supply of survival food is not very much. I think we all should minimally have a few months supply. So check them out. And any additional discounts you get, you also plug in Unmuzzled, you'll get an additional 10% off. And it's crucial because I don't want any of you to go starving. Starving's not fun. I've done some fasting. That's
The drag.
and that's nothing even like real hunger. So get prepared. One of the biggest preparedness moves, I feel bang for buck, dollar for dollar, is the EMP shield investment. At least get one of those on your vehicles today. EMPs is legit no threat. You think the elitists at the point we're effective at doing our job and ruling out corruption are going to want to nuke the planet? I think they might. I mean, come on. After all, they have bunkers on all their estates. But maybe it's just a hunker down, after they shut off the lights, right? So don't be left stranded with a vehicle that's just a paperweight. Protect it with an EMP shield, and you're getting $50 off all their products through our link. Every single product. So start buying them for your family members. You can actually get a particular one that you can install in your home or protect your solar investment. Other than preparedness, things that helped me, and Judith really hit the nail on the head on, detox. Bond charge is, on the other side of the tote, I actually got the infrared sauna blanket. It's so convenient.
I did too. Really great. Yeah.
It is so great. I'm telling you, from the smells, from the sweat, from the way I feel, I know it's doing things on levels that your traditional sauna just isn't. It's pulling out on deep levels. So
all the bad toxins, absolutely,
100%, and that they're tried, true, tested, like no bad frequencies emitted. You can get cheaper ones on Amazon, but I'm telling you, folks, it could be potentially doing more damage than good. So check out the link below. You'll get 15% off all their products, which is over $100 off that infrared sauna blanket. And if you want to magnify the detoxifying of heavy metals and forever chemicals, check out Masterpiece. That tincture is miraculous. It's kind of a miracle tincture, to be honest. Other than that, right here, Unmuzzled Chat. Get your Unmuzzled Chat tea and embody that. Be unmuzzled. The worst type of censorship is self-censorship. And we have too many people walking around fearful because the talking heads are demonizing truth. Get over that. So check out Black Eagle Apparel, get some Freedom merch, get your Unmuzzled Chat tea today. That would be greatly benefit us as well. We got to keep our lights on. Shoot, if you're even feeling charitable, we got a GoFundMe, we got a Venmo link. The reality of it is we are still in debt, showing up, doing what we're doing. But I know in time, God will, he's testing us. He's going to make sure that, we keep a roof over our head and food on the table. But if it resonates with you, any amount would be such a gift. Well, Judith, thank you again. Bless you, hon. And we'll be in communication because I feel we just scratched the surface with you. And we'll see what we can come up with.
Right on. I'm game anytime.
All right, listeners, thanks for tuning in. God bless you. God bless America. Till next time, take care.